All right. So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I am really excited that you guys came to attend. I have known Dr. Martin for a little while, and I didn't know that he was actually a part of the the COVID-19 response team. I might be maybe not fully clear on that, but the point is, um, we are friends, and one of the things I really like about him is that whenever I have a problem, I can actually call him, and even if I'm not paying him, he cares enough to help me, and I appreciate that so much. And one of the reasons why I'm actually doing this is because um, he did a program in Montmoritz Church, and the format for the program was absolutely amazing because he just did question and answers instead of just doing presentations and explaining to everybody exactly why, or trying to tell them. He just simply asks, listen to questions, asks, and he just answered the questions, and it was one of the most enlightening experiences that I had. Primarily, the reason why I'm fully vaccinated right now is because I actually spoke to Dr. Martin. Even though I did it before, even though I started the process before he actually did that program, the program did help to clear up a lot of things. And so we had a meeting with Samira and 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 Marlon and Rakim and the others, and they said, hey, you know what? If you know this guy and he's so amazing and you're answering all these questions because I can't answer them as good as he can, why not do a meeting with him? So I decided to open it to everybody. And so here we are. Dr. Martin, I guess you'll tell us a little
Right.
bit more about
Yes.
yourself, and yeah.
I'm here. Well, the thing is, I usually don't like introductions, as you know, and I think I just
Oh,
want people to get an opportunity to know me by themselves, and then they'll figure out what kind of person I am. But
well,
just so you guys know,
that's
I've done
nice because
a
I didn't
number
give
of
too much
things.
information.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for most of you, I've been practicing medicine for the last 20 years. I've been an emergency medicine doctor for 10 years, and I've actually held different positions within the Ministry of Health from time to time. And I'm so sure that most of you might have seen me in the media. So I'm happy to be here. I gave my commitment to the COVID committee that even if I leave the Ministry of Health, I will continue to support the programs. And so I have welcome, and most of the time I'm really honored that people are asking me to come and enlighten them on some aspects regarding the vaccines. As Carlos have indicated, the approach that I've used before as well has been a question and answer approach, because that way I find people go away feeling a lot more satisfied that the questions are being answered. So I am not going to say anything more. I'm going to open the floor right away so that you can start asking your questions. And even if you are a bit shy with asking your questions, because I have done so many of these sessions, there are 5 key areas that seems to come up every single time I do a session. So even if you're very shy, there is still some things I can speak about that I think you might be lingering in your mind as well, because those have been the consistent issues that came up every single time I did a session like that. So I am going to open the screen right away for you to start giving your questions or your concerns. Over.
And anybody can jump in.
Um, my first question will be, um, Dr. Martin, can you explain to me how is COVID really transmitted?
Okay. So the COVID virus is a cold virus. The COVID-19 virus comes from the family of viruses called coronaviruses. The world has already seen 4 coronaviruses. In fact, we have coronaviruses here already. The common cold viruses are called coronaviruses. This virus is the 5th coronavirus that the world has seen, and the name of it is actually called COVID-19. So the transmission of COVID-19 is exactly the same way the common cold is transmitted. It is transmitted in droplets from a cough or a sneeze. It enters into our body through the nostrils and then through the lungs, and your body react to it as it enters through there. So it's not a huge, not any big science. It's very simple. It is transmitted from person to person using droplets, and The ways we get those droplets into us is by touching someone or being within 6 feet of someone who have coughed or sneezed and inhaling the droplets from that person. So that's how COVID-19 is transmitted.
Samira had a question.
Yes, I had a question. It not necessarily coming straight from me, but I'll let the person just ask real quick.
Hi, hello.
Yes.
Hey, yeah, we could hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
We can hear you. All right, great. Quick question. I just want to know what are the doctor's thoughts on mass vaccination so early in the pandemic? Do you think it's correlated with the mutation of the virus itself?
I have heard people speak about that, and it's unfortunate that they've spoken about that. The people who are saying that they have missed a very important factor, and here it goes.
Right.
The variants of the virus always comes when there is high transmission rates. So
Right.
variances are caused because of high transmission. If you recall, the first variant was the English variant when it was high transmission rates in England. There were no vaccines around at that time. Then the second variant was the South African variant, and that happened when there were very high transmission in Africa. There were no vaccines around that time.
Right.
The Brazilian variant happens when there was very high transmission in Brazil. By then, the vaccine starts coming out. And then the last variant was the Indian variant or the Delta variant. That came around when there were very, very high transmission rates of the virus. So the variance of the virus has nothing to do with vaccination. It has to do with high transmission rates. And that worries me because in the Caribbean, we're about to face our highest transmission rate. The thing is, though, if we have a high transmission rate in the Caribbean and the Caribbean developed its own variant, we're not like Brazil or India or England who can make vaccines for the new variant. We would be like sitting ducks because our technology in the Caribbean is not for making vaccines. We are now going to have to depend on somebody to make a vaccine for us. So it's really important that Caribbean people try and avoid high risks of transmission because viruses, the more they transmit from one person to the next, is the more there is a chance for errors to take place in the genetic coding, and that's what leads to variants. It has nothing to do with vaccination. But I understand the question because there are a school of thought about vaccines doing that. There are some people who have thoughts about vaccines, not just the COVID vaccines, but there are people who have thoughts about MMR vaccine causing pertussis vaccine causing pertussis in the United States. So there's a group of people in the United States that is lobbying for stopping pertussis vaccines and MMR vaccines. And that is the origin of that question that you have just asked there. That one has nothing to do with COVID-19.
All right, so with our high transmission rate that we're going to experience, quite obvious is there, it's going to happen. Like you said, we will have to depend on someone else to make a vaccine for the current variant.
Well, the current variant, the vaccines are already being produced for it. In the United States, they're producing a booster shot that will cover the new variant. And for the AstraZeneca, England is already trying out in trials a booster to help with the new variant. Although the AstraZeneca vaccine has a 60 to 75% chance of covering the Delta variant, which is the current variant. It's not 100%. But at least we have 60 to 75%. But the booster, we hope that if there's a need for a booster, then the booster definitely going to deal with the new variants that are ongoing.
Okay, that's great. Just two more questions, and I'll just go ahead and wrap up. The second question is that I would like to know. I'm slipping my mind. But the current vaccine that we have now, not considering the booster shot, how long does that vaccine stay in our system or helps us resist that a particular pathogen, or just in itself, even with all the bacteria of the COVID-19, how long does it stay in your system for? Is it lifetime?
The vaccines itself is made up of protein molecules, salt molecules, water molecules, alcohol molecules. So the vaccine itself is going to disappear in your body after a couple of days. Your body will metabolize the vaccine and you will pee it out in your urine. But the effects of the vaccine, the antibodies that are being produced, we don't quite yet know how long it's going to be giving you protection for, but we have a clear idea. We have a good idea. The United States, because the vaccine came out so early, they missed the chance for all the new variants. So for that reason, the United States have already made a decision that they're going to do their booster next month because they missed all of those variants. Gladly, however, because AstraZeneca took a while to come out with theirs, AstraZeneca has good coverage against most of the variants. And so for that reason, AstraZeneca is the most widely used vaccine in the entire world.
Wow.
Although we don't know how long the vaccine, the immunity is going to last for, at least we know it's going to be there for a year or so, because it has been about a year now since the AstraZeneca has been in place.
That's what I'm saying.
And we're hoping, yeah.
Because I'm thinking the reason why it has
it
such high numbers is because it was the first one in play. Because just
Right.
my personal opinion, Pfizer looks more attractive to me.
Well, there is a reason why Pfizer was more attractive to you. And let me tell you the reason. The reason is because some institutions and some people in some parts of the world very early made a decision that they're going to poison the world mind against AstraZeneca. And so for that reason, there were people who were actually being paid. They were being paid to lie. They were being paid to share disinformation. They were being paid to share misinformation and propaganda. Thankfully, the researchers have found the top guys who are responsible for about 65% of the falsehood that was online. The researchers have found them. Their accounts have now been wiped off the internet. And so we think, and the interesting thing about that research is that some of the lies that the researchers actually gave us, some of the stories that they were peddling, and what I found interesting is that they were peddling some of the same stories that was in Grenada here. So you look as though it's really horrible. And I think countries doing that because, I mean, the business side of vaccination is that countries want their vaccine to be the vaccine of the world because they stand to make a lot of money out of it.
Exactly.
So that's the reason why they do all of this propaganda to poison the world against one vaccine against the other.
And that's causing problems because there's a divide now between vaccines and then anti-vaxxers and pro-vaxxers and all that. The last question is, do you think, what are the chances or the probability, or even what do you think about adverse effects from the vaccine with people that don't have any particular underlying issues?
Well, the thing is, the only vaccine that I am concerned about long-term effects is the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna, because these vaccines, the technology that they're using is brand new technology. The world of vaccinology has never seen that technology before. That is the mRNA. However, the way the AstraZeneca vaccine was made and created, it was made and created the same way that all the vaccines that your mother took since she was a child, the same vaccine that you and I took when we were children, the same technology. So
but Pfizer and Moderna are very, very new.
Very new. So we have a lot of experience with the AstraZeneca technology, and that's why I can safely say that because we have been using that type of vaccines before, the long-term effect will be minuscule, if any at all.
Okay. This helps a lot. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you so much for your questions.
Yeah,
my question.
Good questions.
Samir, you had a question as well?
No, I'm good. Go ahead, guys.
Okay. Priestess on the floor.
Yes. Okay. So my question is, I have some friends coming from Russia. And recently, I saw like the Sputnik V is was considered to be approved for quarantine, like for 2 days when you are vaccinated when you come to Grenada. And then after a time, I see that it is removed. And also there was a movement to make Grenada as the spot to distribute Sputnik V around Caribbean. So what is it about? I know that Sputnik V is not approved by the World Health Organization. Do you have any insider information about will it be eventually approved or particularly used in Grenada and Caribbean things?
Well, the thing is, I'm not able to give you the up-to-date information because, as you know, I have since resigned my job in the ministry. But I understand how the Caribbean works. I understand how we work here in the OECS. So, first of all, the OECS and Grenada will make sure they want to look to the World Health Organization for authorization before they accept a particular vaccine. So a lot of the acceptance will depend on whether or not WHO has approved it or not. Secondly, it's going to also depend on our current vaccine regime and how we do vaccination in the Caribbean. There's a particular process that takes place when we vaccinate, and that process is very tightly linked to PAHO. Most of the OECS islands, including Grenada, has this very strong link with PAHO as far as the vaccination programs is concerned. So that will also factor into whether or not Sputnik will be eventually accepted. So if you say Sputnik is not accepted, as a matter of fact, I actually thought Sputnik was accepted already. I don't know what has happened. But once the WHO has accepted it, then Grenada, as a matter of principle, will also accept it and accept people who are vaccinated with it as being fully vaccinated. So I think we just have to wait and see what the authorities is going to say on that.
Okay, thank you. Samira, wanted to ask.
Anybody else had a question? No, Samira's questions are answered. Marlon. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Please, you have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, another question is, will there be well, when you when you come, will there be like less strict requirements for those who are vaccinated in terms of PCR and antigen test in Grenada? And because in Jamaica, for example, they accept PCR test, antigen test, and also some unknown for me NAA test. So what are all of these tests, and can they? Well, the PCR is most expensive in Grenada and Jamaica, but in Dominica it is less expensive, and antigen is now is administered for free. And for 15 minutes. So what about all these tests? Will the vaccinated people be eased on that when they to travel? Thanks.
Well, no country can give you a straight up answer on a question like that. You see, a country makes a decision based on the clinical situation that is happening on the ground. That's why we say COVID is a very fluid situation and a very dynamic situation. And what is accepted 3 weeks ago may not be the same accepted now. So we all have to wait to see how the transmission rates are going to happen in Grenada, how many deaths are happening, what the current situation is. This is what's going to determine the final guideline on what to be used. What I can say, however, is that Grenada does accept the PCR testing, RT-PCR, and Grenada also does accept the antigen PCR based on the clinical scenario put forward by the people. So you really can't get a direct answer for that right now. We just have to wait and see how the pandemic pans out and to determine how's the best way to deal with it.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, please?
And what is NAA test? I'm just curious. PCR is testing for the. Well, I have lots of questions, especially because I believe that all this is related to programming and coding, because DNA as a coding language. So I think the evening is going to be long. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, once there is time, we can always go ahead and answer. I'll
right.
try as much as possible.
Well, what we could do in that case, we could go to Marlon, and then at some point in time, we could come back to Greece, okay?
Right.
So Marlon?
Yeah. All right. So I know that the vaccine is being portrayed. Actually, I'm not sure exactly what the vaccine has been portrayed as. I hear a lot of rulers state that it's not preventing you from catching the virus. And actually, there's a lot of people, a few people that I know of in Grenada here who's currently quarantined, who took the virus, the second dose, sorry, not the virus, but the vaccine, the second dose of the vaccine, and then they still catch the virus. My question is, what exactly the vaccine is for? Because people, you can still spread it, you can still catch it, you can even still die from it. There's currently one person who's suffering, a guy from Cali who's suffering right now from blood clots after he took the vaccine. There's one woman who I think she knew that she had a problem before, but as she took the vaccine, a few weeks after she died. She started getting a lot of pain in her chest, and then it ended up in her head, and then she died from that. So, my question is, what is the real purpose of the vaccine? And yeah.
All right. Um, Guys, let us be honest. There is no vaccine in the world that can stop a virus because the virus is in the air. You're breathing it. All right. So there is no vaccine to stop that virus that you breathe in. Somebody cough COVID in your presence. There is nothing to stop that COVID virus from entering into your lungs because a vaccine can't do that. What the vaccine does is that it helps your body to recognize the virus when it comes. And as it recognizes the virus, it helps your body to bind and kill the virus so that you do not get sick. The job of the vaccine is to stop you from getting sick and to stop you from dying. That's the job of the vaccine. The job of the vaccines is not to stop the virus. That's a very important concept that you must understand. Secondly, when people say you get the vaccine and you can still catch the virus and pass it on, that is true. But don't stop there. You must add another part to that sentence. So I hope that from now on, you're going to add another part to that sentence. And here is the part I need you to add to the sentence. When you say people can get the vaccine and pass the virus on, you must add that while, yes, this is possible, the chances of it happening is very slim. In other words, there is more chance of you not passing it on being vaccinated than passing it on being vaccinated. I hope you understand very well what I'm trying to say. So yes, it is possible to get the virus while vaccinated. It is possible to pass the virus on being vaccinated, but the chance of it happening is very slim. That's the first part I need to add to the question, all right? So vaccine cannot stop a virus from entering your body. When you take a tetanus vaccine and you step on a nail, the vaccine doesn't stop the tetanus on that nail from entering into your wound. It will enter into your wound. The vaccine will prevent you from dying from tetanus, and that's the job of a vaccine. Secondly, about deaths. Everybody who speaks about death in Grenada is a gossip. It is not factual. If you think that what you're saying about the person who got sick and died is factual, then take my number. The number is 405-0311. You call me and give me the facts, or let the people call me and give me the facts. Because all I say to people, don't just talk. If what you're saying is true, prove it. All right. Second, the other thing is, you cannot assume that someone's blood clot is from a vaccine, even if they take the vaccine. Because last year, there were 50-something people with blood clots in Grenada. Was vaccine around? No, there was no vaccine around. So blood clot is a normal thing in Grenada. This year, even before the first vaccine came out, we had treated 25 people with blood clots. None of them had a vaccine. So you cannot assume that the vaccine causes these people's blood clot. If indeed in truth there was a vaccinated person who had a blood clot, it probably means that that person would have got a blood clot anyway. It may not necessarily have been the vaccine, because the truth of the blood clot is, while it is, yes, possible for you to get a blood clot associated with the vaccine, the chance of a blood clot is very, very rare. As a matter of fact, it took millions of doses before they start seeing the first blood clot. England had to vaccinate 3 million people before they saw any statistically relevant blood clots. So in other words, yes, there is blood clots available, but the blood clot is extremely rare. On the converse of that though, COVID actually kills you by causing multi-organ failure. And the reason for the multi-organ failure is because the blood vessels in those organs all got clogged up because of multiple clots inside of those blood vessels. And we saw that when we did autopsies on people who died from COVID. So don't let the social media twist your mind and make you feel that it's a blood clot, that is the vaccine that's giving you the blood clot. No, it is the COVID virus that kills you from blood clot. So while yes, there is a slight chance of a blood clot, it is extremely rare that that's the case. I hope that answered your question, and if there is any other lingering issues, please tell me again so I can answer them.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, but I actually know two people actually took the vaccine, and because of that, there's one woman. I'm not sure if Mr. Carlos knows her. She's an Adventist in New Hampshire. She had some complication before, And I think they're saying that she didn't die from the vaccine; she died because of her complication, which I mean it's factual. She had complication, but because of the complication, she took the vaccine. I think that might make it worse. Soon after she took the vaccine, she got home. She got having pain in her chest. It just keep going higher and higher, and then end up in her head. And then a few weeks after, she
But
died from it.
but but let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Let's say you're correct. Let us say you are correct, huh?
Hmm.
Right? And you're correct. If that vaccine can save 4 billion people from dying, but in the process of saving 4 billion people, 100 will die, what will you do?
Sorry, then I still try to save the hundreds.
No. You're being unrealistic. Let me ask you another question. You know why I believe you're being unrealistic and you
No, no,
actually
no. Let's
lie?
hold on, hold on.
No.
I'm thinking about it in my position, right? I'm in that
Oh, okay,
situation,
okay.
and I'm a what person that probably will die. Would you think
Okay.
I'll go for that?
No, hold on.
So
Let me
I'm
ask you.
putting myself in other people's shoes just as well.
No, you have to be practical. Let me ask you this. Do you know that penicillin has killed people before?
I'm not sure about that. I don't even know what's
Do you know
penicillin.
do you know penicillin is an antibiotic that people can become allergic to? Do you know that people have died from penicillin before?
So you're saying we have to sacrifice a few in order to get it right?
No,
No,
it's a reality.
it's a reality. I want you to answer.
So yeah,
There
but
have been
no, I understand what you're saying. I understand.
okay, right.
I know
Once
it's
you
fact. Yeah.
understand it, I good.
Yeah, but
Right, okay.
people put themselves in my situation. No one wants to die. So this is what getting people scared. But right now,
Well,
I did not take the vaccine, and I don't think I ever will take it.
No,
no,
Because
the
there's some
fear.
hold on. There's certain people who have complication, and there's some people who don't. And you have some people who do not know they have complication, and when they took the vaccine, and that when it becomes worse. I have two friends who
well,
have. There's one girl.
listen.
It
Listen,
sorry.
listen. Hold on. Let me tell you something, eh? You see, those kind of things you're saying there, that is not been proven. And I won't let you continue this kind of foolishness. This has not been proven. Let me tell you something. In life, the life you live is a life of risk. You could take a bus and go home this afternoon, and the bus may have an accident and you may die on that bus. But would you say that because there is a slight risk of me dying from a bus ride that I will never take the bus? In life, that is what it's all about. When you step out in the morning on to go to work, you could be struck down by a vehicle. This is what life is all about. It's all about being practical. What you're behaving, what you're trying to peddle right there now is an impractical, unrealistic behavior because you have preconceived ideas and you're not allowing yourself to see the practicality and the reality of life. Things like that don't I don't waste time with things like that.
I think on a next level, it's more along the lines of uh, facing a mountain, facing a boulder and being scared of the boulder instead of the mountain. So in other words, you have so many people that die, so many people that are affected by it. So then, you know what? As a result, I am scared of the thing that actually fights against it. And by the way, Marlon, just so that you know, penicillin is a medical game changer. Basically, when they discovered penicillin, a whole set of people lives end up getting saved, but a lot of people end up dying as a result as well because of the side effects that penicillin actually have for a few people. But they didn't say as a result of the side effects, you know what, like we never use it again, even though we could end up saving millions of lives. So that's the reason why Dr. Martin was saying, you know what, if we have 4 billion people and 100 die, as much as we don't want anybody to die, we back in the same boat. So somebody dies and there's nothing that we could do to stop that. Does anybody else have a question? Selena had a lot of questions and I couldn't answer them as well.
I have a question.
Okay, Joseph, go ahead.
My question is that in the beginning with this thing, what percentage of people was dying from it? And
Joseph, your
yeah,
mic sounds really muffled.
sorry, is it better?
Not much better, but ask you a question. Let me see if we could understand all parts of it.
Okay, my question is, in the beginning, the percentage of people dying of corona, With the vaccine, has that made a huge difference in that percentage of people that are actually dying of corona? Because there's only so much people dying of corona to start with.
Oh, that's a nice question. Dr. Martin, did you get a question? He said,
Paraphrase it.
He's-
I didn't really get it.
he said basically, there's a certain percentage of people that are dying from coronavirus, and has the vaccine actually decreased the percentage of people that are dying? You understand?
Oh yes. Oh,
Dr. Martin, you cut out just a sec.
oh yes. Oh yes. That and the data is out there. Hospitalized for COVID, not one of them were vaccinated. 99.9% people of people who end up in hospital for COVID was not vaccinated, and 99% of the people who were vaccinated never end up in hospital, and that is a huge difference. And what we're seeing is that across the world, the data seems to be the same. The percentage of deaths of people who are not vaccinated are in the upper 90%. And the percentage of people who are vaccinated that never end up in hospital or get sick is also up in the 90%, upper 90% range. So this definitely shows that the vaccine is making a significant impact on persons who are on the sickness and death rates of COVID.
I'd like to add to that, which technically is a question as well. One of the things from the onset of COVID-19 was that they indicated that those who are older and had other comorbidities were much more vulnerable to the coronavirus. So could you now highlight how it has helped those people, or has it actually helped those people?
Well, that has actually fed into a new phenomenon that we see with COVID. Because these people were the ones that were affected most with the virus and were presumably dying most with the virus, these were the group of people who were first vaccinated. So now we're facing a situation where a lot of the elderly folks are fully vaccinated. So the virus has now begin the variants of the new variants that are being formed. The virus has found a way to start affecting the younger population now. So much so that it's even causing death in the younger population. There was a child, I think was 9 years old in Trinidad, that died a couple of weeks ago. And so it is a very worrying sign that the elderly populations are now being protected. They're still dying from COVID, but because many of them are actually vaccinated, they are not dying. So people now who are adults, middle-aged, and it seems to be heading downwards in terms of the demographics, are more at risk right now. So it's a very worrying trend, but it's something we have to keep a very close eye on. Over.
Okay, I didn't know about the kid part. That's actually quite interesting. I have to keep my eye out on that. I heard it said that the kids are much less susceptible to the virus, but I heard that there's a possibility that the data was botched a little because the kids were more protected when COVID-19 originally came out, where they wouldn't actually interact with adults as much. But now, it's a little bit different, and the kids are actually having the opportunity to interact more. So I don't know if that's also one of the reasons why we see now COVID-19 actually touching a part of the population that it wasn't touching before. I don't know what your thoughts.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. It's a couple of things. The interactions are more, that's for sure, but the characteristics of the virus seems to be changing as well. Because if you all recall, we had a 7-year-old here in Grenada who tested positive for COVID in the early days. So I think it's a combination of things that is working together that helping this thing to move in that direction. And it's for that reason the United States have actually studied the vaccination in the younger population, and so now kids 5 years and older can actually be vaccinated. Cuba has done a similar thing where they are actually vaccinating their children as well from the virus, because of the fear of the virus changing and mutating to variants that affect younger people. Because viruses tend to have personalities and characteristics. Look at the Coxsackie virus. The Coxsackie virus is the one that causes hand, foot, and mouth disease. It affects children almost exclusively, but it does not affect adults, because you live in the same house with the child. The child has hand, foot, and mouth disease, but you never get it. So viruses tend to do that kind of thing, and they have the ability to detect and to select which demographics they want to affect.
Was most available, they're most hungry for.
Yes.
Like a open petri dish. Selena had a question. Let me just read it really quick. Sorry. She said, "What type of tests we need to take to ensure that we are qualified to take the vaccine?"
Well, first of all, as a physician and understanding the physiology of the human body, the fact that she can sit in front of that computer and ask that question means that she has a functioning immune system. And so once you have a functioning immune system, you can take a vaccine, because for vaccination, all you need to have is a good immune system. You don't need anything really else. People without good immune system, they are, not doing very well. These people are probably, in a bed lying down somewhere, HIV people who have been AIDS, or cancer patients on chemotherapy. But for the added level of assurance, and confidence, you can ask your doctor to do a CBC, called a complete blood count, a CBC. That doctor will now look at the CBC and assess how well your white blood cells are functioning, your leukocytes are functioning, because that's where the vaccine actually works, and he can give you the go or no go sign to take the vaccine. But I'm pretty sure that you will have a good enough immune system to be able to take the vaccine.
Usually, bad CBC means that you're actually gonna have to be in hospital very soon.
Right. Or you have an actual infection ongoing in your body. No. And once you have an infection going on in your body, you should not actually take any vaccine at all. You should wait until the infection is disappeared before you take any vaccine. And this is why we say to people, if you have a fever, you shouldn't take a vaccine. If you have a cold, a stuffy nose, you shouldn't take a vaccine, because your immune system has to be really good and up and running before you become, and that's for any vaccine at all, not just COVID-19 vaccine.
Strangely enough, I feel like I didn't know that. That's really enlightening to me. I think one of the nice things about what you said is the CBC, the blood count. Because
Yes.
I could actually now tell people, go and check and see if you have a good blood count. Here's a question: is it very expensive to do that test?
No. Actually, that test is one of the cheaper ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for some places might be about between 20 and 50 EC to get that test done. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I saw Rakim first. Rakim, where's your question?
Two questions. First one is, why do we need to take the vaccine twice? And the second one is more of kind of like a rumor kind of thing. I heard talks about Cuba creating a vaccine. I didn't really look into it, so I'm just asking now.
Okay. For the first question, the dosage of the vaccine has all to do with manufacturers, how they manufacture it, and the technology that they use. But most importantly, the dosage comes after the trial phases of the vaccines. When they're trying out the vaccine to see how effective it is, this is where they determine how many doses you need to take for to get maximum immunity. So some countries, their vaccine requires 1 for maximum immunity. Other countries, their vaccine requires 2 for immunity. And in some, 3 doses for immunity. Cuba, for example, their vaccine is 3 doses to get immunity. And that's simply because of how it is created. And during the trial phases where they're working out how effective the vaccine is, the research actually told them that they need 3 or 2 or 1 dose for maximum immunity. And yes, Cuba has worked on the vaccine. The safety protocols for the Cuba vaccine has now been submitted to the World Health Organization. We all here in the Caribbean are waiting to see what the World Health Organization will say about the Cuba vaccine, because a lot of people would rather get a Cuba vaccine than other places because of the perception that Cuba has a better immune system, better healthcare system, and Cuba is not driven by money. And that's fine, because I like that as well. I mean, Cuba has been a great friend of ours, and they have a great medical system. So I have no doubt that the vaccine is going to be a good one. We just need to see the safety data to ensure that we're happy with it before we recommend it for the population.
Okay, thanks.
Samira had a question.
Yes. Selena was speaking about what tests you have to take and such, and like kind of brought me to my sister, and I just wanted to let you know of what was going on with her to just get your
opinion
on that. So just a quick rundown. She had a lot of different complications. She recently had a baby last year, just before COVID hit. Anyways, it was last year or so. She ended up having a blood clot because of that pregnancy, and before that, she also had tracings of cervical cancer. So there's a lot of different things that have been happening, and she had decided that she's not going to take the vaccine at all because of these things that's been happening, especially with the blood clot that she already have, and she's looking to see if it's still there because it has been there throughout the whole pregnancy and other things. So what would your opinion be on that if she necessarily has to take it?
Well, first of all, this notion that if you have underlying condition, you shouldn't take the vaccine, that notion was peddled by the falsified, wicked people who were there simply to spread bad information. That notion was peddled by them. In other words, we know that COVID kills people with underlying conditions more. So if you have an underlying condition, you are more likely to die from COVID because COVID kills people with underlying conditions more. So if you have an underlying condition like hypertension, diabetes, and so on, you should actually be at the front of the line to get your vaccine because you are more at risk. But social media, those guys skillfully coin those languages to sidetrack people to tell them that if you have an underlying condition, you shouldn't take the vaccine. That is absolutely false and absolutely wrong. In your relative's specific situation, if they're having a blood clot problems at the moment, there is still a safe way to take the vaccine, even if you're having a blood clot moment. In fact, the World Health Organization indicates that yes, if you have a blood clot or you have blood clot issues, you should still take, you could still take the vaccine. However, as a Grenadian, as a physician who understands the hearts and minds of people, that individual would be very worried because they might believe that they might be the rare person who gets the rare blood clot. Although it is rare, you might just feel that you might get it. So for her, I would say, let us use the Pfizer vaccine because the Pfizer vaccine does not have the rare blood clots as the rare side effect. Pfizer's rare side effect is heart disease, something called myocarditis, and people in the States have suffered myocarditis from the Pfizer. So just as how the blood clot is a rare side effect of the AstraZeneca, so is heart disease as a rare effect of the Pfizer vaccine. So for her, I would say take the Pfizer rather than the AstraZeneca. I really hope that helps you. Over.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I've heard about that actually. Swelling of the heart area, and swelling of the muscle around the heart as one of the rare side effects. Yeah, I really like that you didn't use the medical term because was it Saturday? I was actually talking to a researcher and he was actually using the medical terms for you didn't even mention it.
Right.
Okay, so Priest had a question. He says, and you mentioned this to me before, and I guess this is a really nice question. Why are children not allowed to be vaccinated with Sinopharm and AstraZeneca?
All right. The simple answer is the vaccine has not been studied and researched in children. You see, in the world of virology and vaccinology, it is normal when a new therapeutic or a new drug comes onto the market, they would usually test it on adults first, and they will roll it out in the adult population first, because it is considered unethical and immoral to try any new therapeutic or any new medication on children, pregnant, and breastfeeding women. So now the vaccine is now rolling out in the entire population. This is now they're turning their attention to children, pregnant women, and lactating women. The United States has completed their trials on children. Unfortunately, AstraZeneca has not done such a trial on children, and that's why it is not recommended for children. It has nothing else to do. And I think this is because early in the pandemic, we kind of felt that the the virus was sparing children. If you remember those narratives back then, 10 months ago, that narrative that the virus was sparing children. So the vaccine developers did not focus a lot on children. In developing their vaccines, they didn't focus a lot on children. But now we see that the virus is now coming down in age. I would not be surprised if 6 months from now, a year from now, you start hearing them say, we need to now start focus on children. So it is a simple situation where AstraZeneca is not given to children because it has not been studied and researched in the children population.
There are two things that I really like with that answer. As I said before, I've heard it before, is number one, there's this notion that the vaccines aren't tested and vetted properly before they actually get to the point where they actually start administering to the population. But the fact that they're not giving it to children and the fact that they wait and make sure before they could actually approve it for children is actually a demonstration of how much effort is actually put forward in making sure that vaccines are safe for everybody. So just as a side note. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So Selena was saying, I also heard people talking about taking blood thinners for blood clots. I don't understand the question though. In other words, I'm missing some context.
I understand it. Because of the fear of the blood clots, some people want to take things to prevent them from getting the blood clots. And in some instances, I've actually listened and I said it's okay, you can do it. In other words, if you're really fearful of a blood clot, you can take a baby aspirin, which is 81 milligrams. That 81 milligrams is okay to prevent blood clot, but it is not, the dosage is not anti-inflammatory because you actually want the inflammation to take place so that the vaccine can actually work. The antibodies will only be formed if inflammation takes place. So you don't want to take any anti-inflammatory drugs, but you want to take something that would just bring the fever down. So I would say don't take the high dose aspirin, like the 600 milligrams aspirin. If you just take an 81 milligrams aspirin, that helps to thin the blood, and that will prevent you from getting a blood clot. And so that is an option that people can take if they're really scared or they're really worried. But I'm not really scared and worried because I know the chance of a blood clot is extremely rare.
Okay, awesome. I understand the inflammation. It's like if you have a problem in your system and your body is trying to fight that problem. Therefore, if you take an anti-inflammatory, then it would tell your system that there's no problem. Therefore, it wouldn't fight it. That means that it makes the vaccine less
effective.
Effective, yeah.
Yeah, nice, beautiful.
Anybody else had a question? Ruben, I didn't hear anything from you. Okay, Richard, go ahead.
Right. So, based on my research, the COVID droplets can enter through the nose, the mouth, and the eyes. Yet we wear masks, and the mask only covers the nose and the mouth. So, Dr. Martin, what are your thoughts on how effective is mask wearing?
Nothing in life is 100%. Mask wearing is not 100%. Mask wearing is only one of the activities and the measures that are used. In life, there is nothing that is 100. So in other words, hand washing is not 100%. Hand sanitization is not 100%. 6 feet being away is not 100%. And certainly mask wearing is not 100%. What we're asking is that you do all of the above or most of the above. It's like testing for prostate cancer. You can do rectal examination or you can do blood tests. Neither blood test or rectal examination is 100%. You and your doctor have to work out what you do, when you do, and in some cases you need to do both the rectal examination and the blood test. In some other cases, you might just need to do the blood test. Similar for mask, you have to, mask alone can't make it. You have to do all, or as best as possible, try to stick with all as much as possible. And by the way, that 3 things, hand washing, mask wearing, sanitization, 6 feet, should complement what is the real best thing to do. The real best thing to do is to sleep well, eat lots of bright colored foods, the green, yellow, orange, green, drink lots of water. Those are the ways that we promote and improve our immune system so that we can fight all viruses, not just COVID virus. You fight all viruses by eating your bright colored foods, drinking lots of fluid, eating lots of fruits, and sleeping well.
Awesome. Did you say the best? Did you say the best way is to take the vaccine and also to do these things, or did you just say those things? No, the reason why I say is
I didn't
because
say that.
you actually cut out just a little bit, and I was like, I thought that you were going there, and then you went to healthy eating, building your
Yeah,
immune system.
the vaccine, to me right now, as I said before, vaccine is not the only way out of this pandemic. There are other ways out of this pandemic, but given the circumstances of the world as we're facing it right now, vaccination is the simplest, the easiest, and the most practical way of getting out.
Okay.
I don't see anything else that is simpler, that is easier, and is most practical. Because if you go to use the diet is not simple and easy. It's not practical. Some people don't have the opportunity to get all this diet that they should get. It is vaccine. The vaccine is the easiest, the simplest, and the most practical. I just don't like the way it seems as though the world kind of forcing people to take vaccine, and I don't like that at all. I think people must be informed and make an informed decision, because everybody don't need to be vaccinated. Your colleague here tonight said he don't even think he's ever going to be vaccinated, and my answer to him is that's fine. Not everybody in a country needs to be vaccinated. We just need to get to herd immunity, and once we get to herd immunity, the vaccinated one will protect the unvaccinated one, and that's how public health functions. That's how public health works, and I have no problems with that. I will never force everybody to take a vaccine.
One of the things I want to highlight really quick is when you actually talk about when you talk about the when you talk about the vaccine, um, no, when you talk about healthy eating and living and so on, like one of the things that, especially in our church, they talk about, you need to make sure you eat healthy and so on. But there are some people who take the extreme and they say, you know what, I never go to the doctor because, healthy eating should actually save me. But what I would say is that if there's anything that went wrong along the way, then to bring you back to the point where you can actually benefit from that healthy eating, you need to go to the doctor, you need to take that medicine. But once you finish, if you actually take, if you continue eating healthy, if you continue living healthy, then what actually happens is that it stops you from having to visit the doctor. You understand?
Absolutely. 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 I believe in this thing called a well doctor's visit. Don't wait until you get sick to go to the doctor. Go when you're well, so that you can get a baseline. You can see where you are and what you're doing and so on. And that is something that I promote all the time, and I tell people that is something I think they should actually do. Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I should probably do that indeed.
I want to reflect on something earlier today. One of your colleague who is very certain and 100% sure that the vaccine is what caused the demise or the outcome of somebody. And my experience has always been people talking about others. They never talk about themselves. It's about others. But anyhow, I had a situation where a gentleman was about to take the vaccine, but the night before he took the vaccine, he felt a little unwell. So we told him, don't go. Make sure you're completely fine before you go. The next day, he ended up becoming so sick, he ended up in hospital. And the night, he developed a stroke. A day later, the man died. Now, if this man had taken the vaccine, you know what would have happened? Everybody would have said it's the vaccine that killed him. So this colleague who is hell-bent and convinced that it's the vaccine that did certain things, he has to think twice again. This gentleman was going to die anyway. But because he did not take the vaccine, that's the only thing that saved us. So death will happen whether people take vaccines or not. Blood clots will happen whether people take vaccines or not. We have to be fair, we have to be cautious, we have to be sensible, and do what's best for us and our community. The other narrative I want to give about this is this. For those who have decided that they're going to take their chances with the virus itself, for those who have decided that they're not going to take vaccines because of X, Y, or Z, that is fine. And that is fine, and I have no problems with this, and I support anyone who wishes not to take a vaccine or wishes to take a chance with the virus itself. I support them. So I will support your colleague tonight. But what your colleague also needs to understand is while he might succeed, with his stand-up approach, he will eat well, he will sleep well, and he's going to feel better, and he might beat the virus. That's fine. But he gonna take this virus home to his family. Would his child survive if he brings it home to them? No, he's gonna survive because he's doing well, he's following all the rules. Will his mother survive if he brings it home to her? He goes to visit his mother. Will she survive? Would her aunt survive? What about your wife or your colleague? Would they survive? So taking the vaccine is not just about you and yourself. It's about protecting the people around you as well, protecting your colleagues at work, protecting your business. So the whole vaccination issue is far bigger than any individual. It's a public issue, it's a communication issue, and we really have to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, I think one of the harsh parts to this entire thing is having a conclusion before a discussion. You understand? Like, I don't know all the facts.
Right.
I want to know about what's going on.
But you make up your mind
actually have a conclusion. Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I met you just before I took the vaccine, I thought, I don't necessarily need to take it, but I needed to know certain things. I wasn't sure, you understand? And I didn't say, oh, I'm definitely sure I will never do this. I was more along the lines of, oh, well, I'm going to, find out, make sure that I get all the information. And then based on that, I would actually make a decision. And I think I'm hoping that this is enlightening to a lot of people to understand that there's a lot of misinformation that's actually going on. Malam was asking for the doctor claim, who work in the vaccine says that it, the effects, someone within 3 months to 5 years of the vaccine. No, you were saying, well, let me read that again. Sorry. Working and was saying that taking the vaccine can affect someone within 3 months to 5 years. Well, I think you partially addressed it before, where you had said that we know at least a year it would affect you. But I think that's a good thing, isn't it?
I hope the effect. I hope the effects he's talking about does not have anything to do with the misinformation that was being peddled in social media that you're going to die after 2 years of taking the vaccine or something like that. I hope that's not what he was talking about, because that particular message was one of the messages that they discovered was deliberately being peddled on the internet, and as a false and disinformation. I hope that is maybe what he's talking about.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I think this is something that we need to possibly get government to go and do, instead of having government officials talking about people could die. Yes, we know people are going to die. It's a certain, like, these things have been happening, but
this organization, organized event, right?
Like Mr. Francis came on and he's like talking facts and backing up his information and so on. Like, these are things that I want to hear, instead of just government officials.
Yes, that's what I felt. That's the reason why I did this to you guys. I know.
This makes me feel so much more better than about taking the vaccine. I already took my first shot. I'll take the second shot sometime next month. But this, like, having a discussion like this makes so much more sense than what they've been seeing on online for the past couple months, or actually it's been a year already.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I recorded tonight, because I realized that if we put it up and we promote it and people could actually use it, then I think it would actually help a lot, because these are questions that a lot of people have. Yeah. And I agree with you. This completely blew my mind.
Exactly. So, like, if we can get Mr. Francis to go online, like have a live, or somewhere in government, have somebody to do this, this is gonna make so much more Grenadians feel better, I believe.
But Dr. Martin, you had told me before that you did this a few times, right?
Yeah, I did a lot, but it was in private capacities, like what you've done. People contact me directly, and I go to business places, workplaces, but I've not been approached by any national governmental. But I'm just doing what I have to do. I'm just here for service. Whoever asks, I come forward.
Okay, I understand. Priest was asking why the vaccine is not mandatory. And he's wondering if it's because they have any doubts around the vaccine is the reason why it's not mandatory. I have an
No,
answer, but I would let you
it,
answer.
it's no, it's a human rights issue. It's a human rights issue. You
Mhm.
really cannot mandate anything except if it is complete at risk to the society. The For example, when TB came out before, because TB was killing the places so much, TB has made its way into the legislation, and so TB treatment for TB is mandatory, not vaccination, but treatment for TB is mandatory because of the high infection rate of it. So you cannot make something mandatory if it is not in the legislation. And so that's why it is not yet mandatory. And I would not support it being mandatory because I understand how these viruses work. And I think eventually, as we achieve herd immunity, there's not going to be a need for mandatory anything. So I'm just hoping that this is going to work out. The 80%, the 70% of our population will take the vaccine, will get herd immunity, and we'll put this thing past us, because we really does need to put this thing past us and get
Oh
our,
yeah,
our country and running.
you're killing us in more ways than the virus.
Yes.
Joseph had a question.
Yes, my question is, can you hear me better?
Yeah, well, not much better, but go ahead.
Okay, my question is, there's certain officials who came out and said that, like the NRA, I believe it was, that it should never really be used on humans. I don't know if that was just like, as you said, propaganda, or there's been certain officials that came out and said that they don't, these things shouldn't be used on humans.
Okay. So I heard your question.
Mm.
Dr. Martin, did you hear? So he was saying that
No,
he heard a lot of people saying, some doctors as well, that were saying that the mRNA version of the vaccine should never have been used on humans, and he was just wondering what your thoughts were on it.
well, first of all, within the medical fraternity, there are differences of opinion. Differences of opinion is normal in medicine. Two doctors may never agree on the same thing, and I use treatment of a cellulitis as an example. If you get a cut on your foot and you go to Dr. Gail Friday, she might give you a drug called Duracef to treat the cut. If you visit Dr. Jennifer Isaac, she may give you cloxacillin to treat the cut. Both of them are doctors, but both have a different opinion about the same thing. And so they will treat you with a different thing. So differences of opinion in the medical fraternity is normal. Because the mRNA vaccine is the brand new technology,
Okay.
obviously there are going to be doctors who will be opposed to the idea of using mRNA. It is a difference of opinion in making the vaccine. I myself is waiting to see how the mRNA vaccine will actually work, because I believe that this will be the future of vaccinology. I think this will be the future of the technology to make vaccines, because it's brand new technology, but it has the potential of being safer among vaccine preparations. So I myself is waiting to see how that will going to be. So the answer is difference of opinions.
Okay. Joseph, I muted you while he was talking just so that you don't get any feedback. Did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you in a different opinions with different doctors, but this seems to be coming from the inventor, the person who pioneered this stuff.
Wait, yeah, I have to say that again. Sorry. Say it one more time.
I understand what he's saying when it comes to different doctors, but this information seems to be coming from the pioneer, the person who invented this mRNA stuff.
Okay. So Dr. Martin, he was saying that the information actually came from the person who invented the technology for the vaccine. And he was wondering if there's a reason to be even more skeptical. And by the way, Joseph, just to add to that, please note that the AstraZeneca that's actually available in Grenada is not using the mRNA technology, but the Pfizer and Moderna, right, are actually using it. So interestingly, it's almost a non-issue until people in Grenada actually started complaining that they don't have other options for vaccines. And then the government actually recently got a donation from the US of, I think, Pfizer, and they will actually start rolling them out soon. So
Yeah,
it's now becoming an issue.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah, go ahead,
well,
Dr. Martin.
I don't know where this colleague got the information from. If the colleague is saying that the inventor of mRNA vaccine is saying that mRNA vaccine should not be used on people, I would really like him to send that link to me. Let me
Yeah,
read
no
it to
problem.
myself, because I find that
I've
very,
seen it
very
in the
odd.
ether. I've seen it in the ether. So I will, I will definitely, Joseph, please send it to me and let me share it with Dr. Martin. By the way, Dr. Martin, there's one of the things that I like about you. It's not something that you know about, and you're like, yeah, I don't know about this. I'm gonna have to check it out. And I'm sure he's gonna get back to us about.
Yeah. I want to see that, because, as I
Yeah.
told you, as a physician, I am also very happy that the mRNA virus vaccine is there. I'm eager to see how it works, because when I was in medical school, there was no mRNA vaccine. mRNA vaccine is brand new. For the last, I think, 5 to 10 years, they've been studying that kind of vaccine. So I myself is interested in seeing how it's going to work. So I really would like to see that narrative, because it's going to impact on the way I feel about the mRNA vaccine, and impact on how people also feel about it. So yeah, I would really like to see that information.
Okay. I've actually seen it, but I haven't actually gotten deep into like the person who did it and the study that he's talking about and all these other things. I just happen to have heard about it. I didn't think about it too much because I realized that a lot of the fear or the frustration that's actually happening around the virus is happening around specifically the mRNA technology. And it's actually not available in Grenada and in a lot of other Caribbean countries, and people don't know that. So then they say, hey, you know what? People in the US are getting sick, therefore people in Grenada will get sick. And they don't know that it's two different vaccines that they're using. And also, like you said, the negative propaganda behind AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
Mr. Mitchell had a question. He said, good evening, all. In keeping with the tenets of informed consent, could Dr. Martin enlighten me on potential medium-term and long-term effects of vaccine, especially the mRNA, that I should take into consideration in my decision-making process regarding the vaccine? So I guess your question is, you got it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I got it. Now, straight off the bat, I do not know the long-term effects of mRNA vaccine, because that's a brand new vaccine. That's a brand new technology. So we are learning about it. I am actually learning about it. All right. Now, regarding the AstraZeneca is a very old vaccine. The technology is a very old technology. The only new thing about the AstraZeneca is that it is coding for a new virus. That's all that's new about it. But the technology, the components, the way it was used, the type of vaccination is very old. We've used that type of vaccines before. And because we've used it before, we have seen how that vaccine has performed in our society. So we can make an informed decision and an academic guess and say, although it is coding for a new virus, the type of vaccine is so old that we have a fair idea that there is going to be very minuscule long-term effects of the vaccine. But the mRNA one, I honestly don't know that. We have to wait and see how it's going to work. I trust in the science, however. I believe that the future of vaccination may very well be mRNA vaccines, because as technology improves, we have found better ways to do things. But we just have to learn, and so we all are learning together on this matter.
Okay. And just to add, Michelle, that the vaccine that we have, the AstraZeneca, is not using the mRNA technology. Priest asks a question. AstraZeneca.
I can read.
yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I should have say aloud. So as I was reading, the technology of AstraZeneca and Sputnik is to use the adenovirus, right, to transport. So there was some fears from the articles that I read. First is that it is not good for revaccination because the body will have eventually immunity against not the virus, COVID or any other disease, but will eventually develop immunity against that transporting adenovirus. And the second fear is that those target cells, which will get the adenovirus, will be producing something which for which the body will attack them, and they will have to die out and never recuperate. And they saying that there are a small number of those cells in the body, so it will eventually damage the integrity of the system. Well, that is the fears that I just reading, but I'm not expert. Can you comment something on that? I was reading in Russian language.
Yes,
Yeah.
I understand. Now, we have to be careful how much we try to read into what we read. Now, the adenovirus technology for delivering or transporting vaccines to our cells, that is a very old technology, as I've said. This is not the first time we've used. And by the way, guys, adenovirus is a virus that does not make humans sick. For example, in your intestine right now, as you're there are some bacteria that lives in your stomach that does not make you sick. So in other words, in life, there are organisms that lives with humans that are in humans, but it does not make the human sick. And adenovirus is one of those viruses. It's there, it can be used, but it does not make us sick at all. So we have used adenoviruses before to make vaccines as a transport medium. We have not experienced any significant problems related to it because, as I said, these vaccines were given to our parents when they were children. They were given to us when we were children, and we are giving it to our children as well, and they're all fine. So I don't know where these papers are coming from, what it is doing, and what the intention of it is. But at the moment, we have no current clinical information to prove that the adenovirus transport medium for transporting the vaccine is of any dangerous issue to our bodies, because adenovirus does not make humans sick.
Interesting.
So what is the reason why they say, for example, Sputnik is not good for revaccination?
To be honest, colleague, I believe it's a geopolitical issue. And I really don't want to get into a geopolitical discussion here today. Sputnik is from Russia. Sinopharm is from China. There is a huge war between the US, China, and Russia. There's a huge war based on the Brexit issue that is causing problems in the AstraZeneca groups as well. And because I don't know who is actually on the other end of this line, there might be some government person on this other end of this line. I have to be careful of how I answer that kind of question. I'm only going to paraphrase it by saying,
yeah, please remember recording.
The issue of vaccines allocations and the issues of who get what vaccine and who is downplaying this vaccine and who is upplaying this vaccine is a geopolitical issue that we should not be discussing in this forum, because it has other implications.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just to make it known, Lester, Dr. Martin had partially answered your question. So his question was because of the unknowns, is it wise for people to be cautious? Basically paraphrasing. especially for Pfizer? And the answer is yes. That does not necessarily apply to AstraZeneca. And also, we partially addressed that because Dr. Martin said that he completely supports not forcing people to take a vaccine. The reason why you take a vaccine is just, to help yourself, to help other people around you, to probably give yourself a better fighting chance, but not necessarily but not from the perspective of it being mandated, because it hasn't reached that point as yet in the world. I just to let everybody know, Dr. Martin had a really long day today, so I want to end at 7:30. So I saw Marlon had a question, had his hand up. So go ahead, Marlon.
Yeah. I have two questions. Firstly, you stated that the technology for creating a vaccine was already been there. Other media states that it takes approximately 5 years to create a fully working vaccine. So, my question is, what is your take on why was this vaccine created in such a short space of time? And secondly, um, if someone took the vaccine and they got the virus and they transmit that virus to someone else, what is the effect of that person? How does the virus affect that person?
Well, Dr.
All
Martin,
right.
I already
Okay.
partially know some of the answers to this.
Yeah. Try and remember the second question for me because my brain, I'm tired as you. And thank you for being in my corner to say we're going to end at 7:30. All right,
Yeah, no problem.
Marlon, this is an excellent question, and here is the answer. Now, vaccines took a long time to be prepared before, but this time it happened in record time. There are four reasons why that has happened. Reason number one. Within record time, because of technology, China was able to develop the genetic sequence of the virus. In the days gone by, it took weeks and weeks to develop genetic sequence of anything. But because of technology, China was able to develop the genetic sequence. And China shared the genetic sequence with every country around the world because they realized the pandemic was killing a lot of people. So they didn't want to be the only person with the genetic information. So they shared it around the world. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, all vaccines go through 4 phases of trial. They're actually called phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. In the past, these phases of trials or studies or research happened one after the other. Phase 1 has to finish before you can go to phase 2. Then phase 2 has to finish before you go to phase 3. Then phase 3 has to finish before you go to phase 4. And each one of those phases took almost a year to complete. Well, the regulators and the authorities said this time around, because the virus is killing so many people around the world, we cannot wait for phase 1 to finish before you go to phase 2. So the phases of the trials happened simultaneously. So in other words, phase 1 and phase 2 happened together. Phase 2 and phase 3 happened together. And they could do this because the phases don't depend on one another. The phases are testing different things. So that's why they could have afforded to do the phases simultaneously. And if you ask me, that probably is the number one reason why the vaccine was developed so quickly, because the phases of trials happened simultaneously. Point number three, in the past, vaccine developers had to go and find investors to put money into the vaccine development, because as you know, medicine is business and vaccination is business. That's the part about public health that I'm not proud of, but that's the truth, that medicine is business. So they had to go find investors before they can develop a vaccine. Well, because the virus was killing so many people, the governments of the world decided that they cannot wait for the vaccine developers to find their own funding to make the vaccine. So the government funded the vaccine agencies so that they can develop their vaccine. You remember Operation Warp Speed? Operation Warp Speed was when Donald Trump sent billions of dollars to Pfizer so that Pfizer can develop the vaccine. Germany and some European bloc, because of Brexit and the anger against England, Brexit and some European bloc also invested in Pfizer because they wanted the Pfizer vaccine. Because I said to you, it's all about money and profits. That's reason number 3. Reason number 4, because AstraZeneca technology for the vaccine is old technology. AstraZeneca did not have to go and find new technology. They simply went on the shelf, took what they had there, put it together, boom, we got an AstraZeneca vaccine. So when you put all those ideas together, that's the single most important reason why the vaccine came out so quickly. It has nothing to do with safety. No corners were cut. Everything was done by the book as it's supposed to be done so that the vaccine can be safe for human implementation. So those are the reasons why the vaccine came out so quickly. Brilliant question, Marlon. Over.
Just to add really quick, pulling items off the shelf does not necessarily mean that they didn't do clinical trials, because they did very rigorous clinical trials.
Actually, when I said pulling off the shelf, you remember MERS and SARS?
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That's what the pulling off the shelf was about, because they took the same technology that they used to use to make MERS and SARS.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yes, for the SARS virus.
Yeah.
And yeah, because as I was telling you guys before, I spoke to a guy who, like, he studied the whole research and so on, and he actually followed the AstraZeneca study as they were doing the clinical trials, and he was telling me about the experience and so on, and why it's a good vaccine and so on. Marlon, you're gonna have to ask the second question. I don't remember it. I'm sorry.
Oh. Yeah, I was saying that someone who took the vaccine and say like they attract the virus, if they have to pass it on to someone who is non-vaccinated,
What are the effects? Okay.
Yeah, what is the effect?
The effects should not be majorly different. The virus is the virus. Once the virus is the same, is not the another variant, then the response of the other person, the response of the person to the infection should be the same. But you know something? I understand where your question is coming from, because again, that was one of the misinformation and disinformation that was being peddled online about the effects of the vaccine on infection in different people. They were trying to say that a vaccinated person puts another person at risk because of being vaccinated. And that is the anti-vaxxers sentiment out there. That's what they're doing. But to my mind, I have no clinical evidence or physiological knowledge that tells me that the unvaccinated person who has been infected by a vaccinated person is going to have a different experience with the virus, is going to react and behave the same.
Sorry, somebody asked if alcohol could act as a low dose blood thinner, like how
Oh Jesus. Rivers is very good. Rivers and Clarkscourt.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Did you say those are very good?
That's a very good question. No,
Oh.
he's laughing because somebody
Okay.
asked. Yeah.
Oh geez.
I'm not gonna tell you who that person is, but
yeah. It's good to wash your hands with. It's a good hand sanitizer, but it doesn't stop the
Dr. Martin,
Hey.
I have something to say before. I realize that we're out of time, so is there as see Dr. Martin gave his number in the group, so can we like WhatsApp him and ask him other questions in our own time?
Yes, very much so. I support that. I look forward to your comments and questions. Because I'm using my WhatsApp for my patient population as well. You might find I take a bit to answer, but I will answer eventually.
Okay. Just the last question, hopefully. When we were getting the second dose, my wife asked if you had taken a dose of a different vaccine, if it was okay to take the second dose of it. So, like, for example, you take the first dose of Pfizer and second dose of AstraZeneca or something like that. What are your thoughts on that? Dr. Martin?
right. I just went through a little. Me.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's excellent.
I just want. It's good now. I just went through a little black spot. All right. So you're talking about mixing the
Yes,
doses,
it's still good.
right?
Yeah,
The research coming out of United States, the research coming out of England, Australia, South America, and New Zealand indicated that it is possible to mix the doses. In other words, you can be vaccinated with one brand and get the booster of another brand. There is even some papers that indicated that you can take one dose of one brand and a second dose of the other brand. And what I found really interesting is that they also indicated that it seems as though you get better coverage by mixing the doses. That I found that to be very comical,
interesting.
but it, it very interesting. But it's out there. So the point is, there is no harm. You be all right. You can mix the doses. It's not a problem.
All right. I am not going to take any more questions. I have a channel in our Slack group in Caribbean Coding Academy, and you guys can ask more questions if you don't want to message Dr. Martin directly. But Dr. Martin does also work for money, so if you want to go by him and get some.
Oh no!
And get some
no!
good gear.
Hold on. I don't advertise myself in public, so
Oh, okay.
Yes, I do. I think it's an ethical thing that I've adopted myself. I don't think I'm better than any other doctor, so I do not advertise myself. So people can
No, well,
come to me
you're
on
not.
their own merit.
Yeah, you're not advertising yourself. I'm the one advertising you. I really like
Oh
the way
my
Dr.
Lord.
Martin operates. And I really appreciate him as a doctor and as a friend as well. And I really am happy that he came all this way to spend time with me and with you guys and to inform us. I think that this is extremely enlightening. And I honestly wish that there could be more of this instead of, one person saying something and another person saying something different. Because I think there's a possibility that we could even get more granular for situations where people are don't have like the answers aren't practical enough to them, or for those who want more information. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate this. Another thing that I really appreciate about Dr. Martin's approach is that he's not necessarily using any sort of special medical terms in order for him to explain why, in a practical way, this makes sense, or why something else doesn't make sense in a practical way. So, from that perspective, I really appreciate this presentation. Does anybody else have anything else to say? All right, so we are going to end it there. Dr. Martin, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on and spending this time with us.
It has been my pleasure, and I really enjoy your group tonight. I really did. So, guys, don't be afraid to reach out if you have any lingering issues. Thanks much for having me. God bless you. Good night.
All right, take care.
All right, bye-bye.